Um, hmm, what's going on, y'all? So, um, sitting here, uh, I'm just laughing at this Kwame Brown situation that's going kind of back and forth. Um, for over the last what 2, 3, 4 days, I think Kwame has uh, gone back and forth with Matt Barnes, to an extent, Gilbert Arenas, Stephen A. Smith, Steven Jackson, and Jamel Hill got thrown in there, and um, I wanted to talk about it because I saw something that was interesting just a few minutes ago on uh, on social media, and so let's talk about it for a minute. So, uh, no, we talk about athletics on the taking court with Coach O segment. So it's another segment. It's got a lot to do with athletics, but got a lot to do with people too. For those who don't know who Kwame Brown is, Kwame Brown is a former NBA player. Um, he was drafted in the 2001 NBA draft as the number one overall pick. Uh, Now, Kwame Brown was what we, I guess, call a non-traditional draftee, being that when he was drafted, he was coming out of high school, coming out of high school as a 17, 18-year-old kid. Now, some people consider him to be one of the biggest busts, or he's been called one of the biggest busts in NBA draft history. And that's not a very nice thing to say about somebody, but how we got to this point is on the all the smoke podcast that Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson host. Uh, they had uh, they had Jenny Buss on. Jenny Buss is an executive with the Los Angeles Lakers franchise. Her father was Jerry Buss, who owned the Lakers for years, and so Jenny Buss was she was discussing Kobe Bryant and the trade that occurred to get Paul Gasol back when Phil Jackson came back after Shaq was traded. The year Shaq was traded from the Lakers, Phil Jackson finished his last year or finished as coach of the Lakers the same year. I think part of that was him and Jerry Buss had a disagreement on trading Shaq. Phil, I think, was telling Jerry Buss that he felt like that Shaq was best player in the world, or I guess the most dangerous player in the world. And Jerry Buss kind of told him, "Okay, glad you think that, uh, because he's leaving and you're no longer coaching." So uh, the Lakers hired Rudy Tomjanovich as coach that year, and he ended up leaving for some health reasons. And Frank Hamlin came in, and the Lakers didn't make the playoffs for the first time in like years. And so at the end of that year, Frank Hamlin was let go, and uh, Jeannie Buss told the story of how she went about convincing or trying to get Phil Jackson to come back as coach. And the dynamic is Phil wanted to come back, but the interesting dynamic was in the off season, Phil Jackson had written a book, and in the book, he talked about coaching the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, and he discussed that he discussed some negative things, or said some negative things, and so she was afraid that Kobe wouldn't want Phil to come back, but I think she said in a late game situation at the end of the year, uh, the Lakers had called timeout, and Kobe was in the huddle. He kind of took over the huddle from the coach, and he called a Phil Jackson play. And so she felt like, oh, okay, maybe this may be something that can work. And so, long story short, Phil and Kobe came back that first year. They didn't. They made the playoffs, but I think they lost in the first round to Phoenix. And she was discussing the next year and how they made the trade for Paul Gasol at the trade break. And in that trade, I think um, they sent Mark Gasol and somebody else, but they ended up getting Paul Gasol. And she mentioned that Kwame Brown was a part of the trade. And as soon as she mentioned him, um, Matt Barnes made a comment that it was only a one-person trade, basically saying they got Paul Gasol and Kwame Brown didn't really count. Um, and while he did it, he kind of nudged Steven Jackson, and uh, Jeannie Buss was confused. She was asking, "Oh, did you play with Paul?" And so Steven Jackson made the point of letting her know, no, we're basically talking about it was a one person trade. You guys only got one thing. Uh, Basically trying to diminish the skills of Kwame Brown and his career. And so that's kind of why Kwame has heat uh, with them. And then Stephen A. has called him a bust. And uh, so, unbeknownst to anybody, a man who has kind of remained behind the scenes and quiet for the last 20 years or so. He They woke up a sleeping giant, and Kwame decided he wanted to uh, get some stuff off his chest. He definitely wanted all the smoke, and he came back at those guys. You know, he made a point to uh, mention that he didn't like the fact that he was being called a bust. He didn't feel like he was a bust. He talked about being a 17, 18-year-old kid and being able to buy his mom a house and being able to buy his mom land on a golf course, and how, if you can do those type of things for your mom as a 17, 18-year-old kid, how can you label that a bust? And how he's successful as an African American male, and uh, they chose that opportunity to kind of polarize him when he wasn't even really the subject of the conversation, and they took that opportunity to take a jab at him. And he's saying that he knows these guys, and he didn't understand why they felt like it was okay for them to do that. With Stephen A. Smith, uh, he felt like, Stephen A. does things for shock value. He felt like he says things that are uh, derogatory towards African American males, and uh, collectively, he feels like these gentlemen have gotten a pass for some of the things in their personal life, and that they use their platforms to uh, talk derogatory towards African American males, and uh, tear them down publicly, which he feels like has a big effect on uh, the young males in the African American community and the overall picture that it provides to the people in the world, and the people in the culture, uh, and it contributes to negative stereotypes of African American males. And so he went on a tear. He went on a tear. He went on his Instagram live, and he basically spoke about Matt Barnes and uh, some of his personal struggles, and kept calling Matt. He's giving Matt a new name, Becky with the new hair, which is a play off an old R&B song, and so uh, it's been very comical. But one of the things that I will say is that it seems as if he's made several different rants. And just to put it clearly for those who don't know, when he's talking about Matt Barnes' personal life, and he's calling him less of a man, and he's addressing a situation that occurred in Matt Barnes' life with his longtime girlfriend, Gloria, who some of you ladies may remember from Basketball Wives. I think she was in like the first 2 or 3 seasons. Um, her and her sister, Laura Govan, who was married to Gilbert Arenas, was in there as well. But Gloria and Matt have 2 children together, longtime boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't think they were ever married. Could be wrong about that, but they ended up breaking up. And now, if you know Matt Barnes' history as an athlete, then you know he did play on the Lakers team, was a teammate of Kobe Bryant's and a teammate of Derek Fisher. Well, soon after uh, Matt and Gloria broke up, Derek Fisher started dating Gloria. And not only did he start dating Gloria, but uh, Matt and him had an altercation that led to Matt driving from one part of California or Arizona to their residence in California, and I think hopping over a fence and confronting Derek Fisher over something that his children were saying. Matt has 2 sons by Gloria, and I think he had a conversation with one of the sons on the phone, and uh, they mentioned something about Derek Fisher and Gloria and a situation, and Matt says that he feared for their safety, so he went over there. They had an altercation, and it became public news. I think Matt might have been charged, or I think the police got involved some type of way, but it became kind of a ooh type moment because this is a former teammate, uh, and if I'm not mistaken, Derek might have even coached Matt for a minute, but I know he's a former teammate, and uh, this guy ends up being with your ex. So it made for a very embarrassing situation for Matt Barnes. It was a while ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe not that long, not good dates. And actually, I'm thinking more like 5, 6 years ago. Um, with with that, you know, Kwame he's riding him, and he's telling him, everything that you're talking about me is about basketball success. But then he mentions that, Matt, you talking about this type of stuff, but you wasn't an elite player yourself. And if he felt like, how can you sit up here and critique my career when you weren't uh you weren't an elite athlete as far as a NBA player. You were a role player. Uh I can't really argue with that. It's interesting because one of the things that Kwame talked about was him being in the NBA fraternity, and we all know that media and fans can say one thing, but when you have the respect of your fellow teammates and fellow ball players, anybody who's ever been a baller knows that's kind of what's important for you. Um, that respect amongst your peers, and so when you have one of your peers who kind of runs you down, then it can lead to a situation where you you feel kind of less than yourself or whatever. And it hurts more than, like I said, more than when fans or media does it. And so he's looking at these guys like, y'all know me, y'all know the ins and outs of the situation. How can y'all be comfortable talking about me like that? And then, he talks about, hey, I did my time in the league and I had a good career. A bust is, somebody who really didn't make it. And he's saying, hey, I made it. I'm not a bust. And so I just, I said, let me look at some stuff. And when you look at it, this was funny to me. And I'm gonna get to some in just a minute about this post I just saw, but I just got to get a background. Okay, Matt Barnes, whose career earnings in the NBA hover around 35 million, somewhere around 35 million. Um, and he played right at about 12 years in the league. Steven Jackson, his career earnings hover right around $68 million that he's made playing in the NBA. Now, given the fact that Steven Jackson, he did reference the fact that he was uh, next to the last pick in the draft. Uh, but like I say, he played I think 12 years in the league as well. So we're talking about two gentlemen that played 12 years in the league. They're gonna get pensions and everything. One who made 68 million, one who made right around 38 million. And that's not including, we just talking about NBA money right now. We're not talking about any endorsements, shoe deals, or anything like that, which I don't know none of them business, but I know, uh, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Um, Now, the gentleman that they're talking about and saying that he's a bust, Kwame Brown played 12 years in the league. Kwame Brown made about $65 million in the league. I got to kind of lean toward Kwame here. If that's a bust, then it's a whole lot of people who invest in a whole lot of money in their kids to be them type of bust. But y'all laughing at Kwame. Okay, so then we have to say, okay, well, let's look at what they did in the league. Now, Steven Jackson, he was a dog. And I got a personal like for him because he brought some toughness to one of my favorite teams, or my favorite team, I should say, um, the San Antonio Spurs. He got a ship with us, uh, so I feel some type of way about Steven Jackson. I'm with him, but Matt Barnes, well, Steven Jackson, he averaged like 15 points a year, uh, probably right around 4 rebounds. Matt Barnes, however, career stats, you probably average like 7 or 8 points and maybe 3, 4 rebounds. He was a role player. He was a role player, man. And ain't nothing wrong with that. There's a whole lot of people wish they was a role player in the NBA. But you're talking about somebody else being a bust who y'all stats right around the same thing. Uh, I think Kwame may average like 6.8, right around 7 points a game. Uh, and probably same rebounds. Uh, the only difference is Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson were drafted in the second round, deep in the draft. Like Steven Jackson said, he was like second from the last pick. And I know Matt Barnes was like the 46th pick. Uh, and both drafts 2001, 2002. So these are peers. These are peers. Um, and we could talk about who deserves to call who a bust and what a bust is, but based on stats and based on longevity of career, you can't really call Kwame a bust. So I think where bust comes in is because he was a number one pick, which most people feel like number one pick in the draft is going to be an elite superstar, um, a kid who can be a franchise changer. Um, and people don't really have context a lot of times. A lot of times people don't have context when they're talking about somebody being a bust. Success in any professional league is based way more than just talent. It's based on positioning. It's based on uh, where you go, uh, what kind of cap space and everything is on the team that you're going to, how the management is, and the coach. Do you fit the coach's style? All these things are attributable to what is technically um, your success in a professional franchise. Um, but people don't point to those circumstances when they consider uh, Kwame. Now, I just know me personally, I've seen different players that I consider to be much more than busting for various reasons. Um, but people don't older coaches or older people will probably remember uh, number one pick LaRue Martin, uh, who may be generally considered to be maybe the biggest bust in NBA history. You guys can Google him and read about LaRue Martin, but uh, he was a big bust. In present times, a lot of people would point towards Greg Oden. Uh, the big kid that came out of Ohio State, and yeah, he had injuries and all these type of things, but can be considered a bust. I remember I graduated in high school like '96, and I want to say around '97, '98. The big kid from a little small school. They called him Candyman. Uh, was a Michael Olawakandi. Michael Olawakandi. They called him Candyman. He was another big kid, like a center. Uh, and he didn't really set the world on fire. Uh, and everybody should remember uh, Darko Milicic. Darko Milicic, he was in the same draft class with was it LeBron and Carmelo, uh, and people don't really think about this dude. Not even in the league no more. I don't even know how he stayed in the league. I think he stayed in the league like 10, 11 years, but he didn't do nothing. He got a ship though, because I think he got a ship with Detroit. Um, but they picked Darko before Carmelo, before Wayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and I mean, like those people are like busts to me. Um, but to be considered a bust, you have you the only thing that you're really considering is where he was picked. So does that make him a bust, or does that make the people who picked him a bust? Because who I feel is the greatest player, Michael Jordan, is the one who picked him, and he's proven to not really be a really good general manager or owner with some of the picks he made. It's the same dude who picked Adam Morrison um, in the draft, in the first round of the draft. But one of the guys who Kwame referenced in one of his tirades, and they off the hook funny to me because you can tell Kwame sounded like one of the dudes that you talking to on the street or just in the kickback on the porch in your backyard. He's just talking real. He's talking straight from the heart, and it's like he keeps saying he ain't mad, but y'all brought him up. So now that y'all brought him up, he finna fire off. And before I get into that, he referenced Eton Thomas, and he was like, "You can ask Eton, what the situation was in the situation that I was in as a number one pick coming in, and felt like he was being blamed or used as a scapegoat because Doug Collins was the coach at that point in time for the Wizards. Well, we all know Doug Collins was a coach for Michael Jordan when the Bulls was there, uh, and Michael Jordan going to the Wizards. Everybody thought the Wizards would be successful. So you know Kwame Brown and Eton have gone on record as saying that they felt like Doug Collins was looking for a scapegoat. Uh, they felt like he was when things weren't successful, they looked like they weren't going to be successful. He wanted to um, basically make it look like somebody else was the reason uh, for them not to be successful. And so when that happened, he it caused Kwame a lot of stress, and it caused him to be blamed for a lot of stuff that he didn't feel like he should be blamed for. Now, Eton Thomas did speak on that, and it's funny because he spoke on it um, before um, he spoke on it before this even came up. It's like a year ago. So I'm gonna play this little Eton Thomas clip, uh, about 2 or 3 minutes long. Listen to it, and I'll come back and address what I feel like is a problem. Because somebody said Kwame Brown was spiraling out of control, and I just really want to address that from a different point of view. But here's Eton Thomas. All right, so that kind of puts a different spin on it. For those of us who weren't in the locker room who don't know, it should definitely put a different spin on it for you. But I want to go to the issue. You guys think about what was said, and now the reason Kwame came out is because he felt like his name was brought up. 2 days, or I don't know, maybe it's 3 days after Kwame came out and said what he had to say, then we get uh Charlemagne, uh, Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club, and he basically Breakfast Club was talking about um the situation with Kwame Brown. They were basically kind of making an ingest mark about remarks about what was going on and how Kwame had kind of ripped Matt Barnes and not only ripped Matt Barnes but ripped Steven Jackson, and they were kind of discussing, and kind of midway through the discussion, Kwame Brown Charlemagne makes a comment about uh, basically kind of saying y'all might want to leave Kwame Brown alone because I know him, or I know his family. Kwame Brown is from Brunswick, Georgia, which is not far from South Carolina. Everybody knows that Charlemagne the God is from South Carolina, and uh, he basically ran down the history of the family of Kwame Brown. Uh, he talked about his father and uh, what he was convicted for, and well, I'm gonna let you hear it. I'll play it, let you hear it, and we'll come back to it and discuss it. Uh, so here's that discussion from the Breakfast Club.
Let me say something, man. I need a second, man. First of all, y'all know Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Those are my partners. You can catch all the Smoke podcasts on the Black Effect iHeartRadio podcast network. I was texting with Matt last night, but let me tell y'all something. Leave Kwame Brown alone. I don't know if y'all know, but you could do a little research. Kwame Brown was born in Charleston, South Carolina. I don't think I've ever met Kwame, but I know a lot of his family. His family lived in Mounts Corner, South Carolina. His father's name was Willie Brown. I don't know how many kids Willie Brown had. I don't know how many siblings Kwame Brown got, but I went to school with his sister, and I went to school with one of his brothers. Let me tell y'all something. Kwame's father in the 90s, I remember this story. He beat a woman with an axe handle. It was his girlfriend. And the rumor was he buried her alive. He buried her in the area that I grew up in, if I remember correctly. I've been trying to call my dad since yesterday to confirm the whole story because I literally forgot about this until yesterday. But the woman died and he got arrested. If he's still alive, he's in prison for life because he got caught because he left South Carolina after the murder and came back for his paycheck. Let me tell you something else. His other brother, I don't know if him and Kwame were close, but his other brother shot his baby mama several times and then killed himself. That was like in '08. And his other brother, Kwame's other brother, just went to jail for murder like 3 years ago. All of this you can Google. I'm saying all that to say, leave Kwame alone. That man has been quiet for 20 years. He don't bother nobody. Clearly, all that all that he's a bust stuff gets to him, and you don't know what people are going through or have been through. But I've seen folks snap for less, and it looks like Kwame is snapping. And if you look at the history of men in his family, you would know his men in his family have a history of snapping. Leave Kwame Brown
Well,
alone.
Matt Barnes did take the high road, and here's what he said.
I was confused because I never said nothing about dude, but bro, you've been getting made fun of since you came in the league for not living up to expectations. I didn't do that. Never laughed, never joked, because I don't talk about people like that. So I asked my team, like, yo, what did I do? Did I miss something? And they said, tap Jack's knee when something was said. So that's what got you mad. You need a hug, bro. But before all this even got moving around, once I heard you talking, I DM'd you like a man because I felt if something I really said, we could talk about it. But you chose to ignore that and take the to the internet.
You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what they've been through. Leave people alone.
Well, people are saying that Kwame then chose violence with this response.
You want to sit on TV and act like y'all is perfect, and you can't respect when a man tell you wrong. Well, let the gloves come off. The only joke you got is about basketball. I got a joke about your life, you punk bitch. I ain't got to lose. I don't got no big podcast. You the dumb that keep responding to a that you bigger than. You ain't learned nothing because you think you tough. A light-skinned like you with slick ass hair should be acting like Drake and taking his girls. But no, you get your girl too.
Yeah, Kwame chose violence, and he will choose
He definitely
violence.
chose
And
violence.
he will choose violence, just like his father did, just like his brothers did. Leave Kwame Brown alone. Let that brother deal
Envy
with
did
whatever
not
he's
like
dealing
that
with.
last statement either. About
I ain't messing with Kwame. Yep.
He did not like that. He said, "What light skin
Look it up. Kwame
with
Brown.
slick hair got to do with it."
Kwame Brown was born in Charleston, South Carolina. His family was in Monk's Corner. Leave Kwame Brown alone.
Bruh.
Matt Barnes head alone.
Bruh. Okay, so first of all, you see how Charlemagne, I like Charlemagne, but he do some passive aggressive shit where he try to act like he's saying something, then he throw little jabs in there while he's saying the shit. So what what he did was he told him leave Kwame Brown wrong. He said he's an advocate. You know, those of you who've known seen Breakfast Club, you know, Charlemagne's advocated for mental health. But you know, he made mention of you see the stuff about his bust uh, angers him, so leave him alone. But then he took that opportunity to go into uh, a 1 or 2 minute diatribe about, well, you should leave him alone because, and then he went through his family history, stuff that I know I wasn't aware of it, and nobody probably was aware of it outside of people who knew the story around that area or who just was big Kwame Brown fan and man looked into it. But he went through this man's entire history of his family and everything negative in his family as if to say that, oh, he got that in him. So y'all keep bothering and he could possibly blow a gasket and do harm. Uh, Kwame was really, really, really upset by that, Charlemagne. He was really aggravated by that because, you know, number one, that ain't had nothing to do with the situation. Number two, I don't know if Charlemagne was trying to send a message to Matt and Steven because they are in business together. Those who don't know, that All the Smoke podcast is a part of Charlemagne's Black Effect Network of podcasts, and so he may have been trying to tell them, "Hey, don't muddy the waters for business. Let it go. Move on. Next opportunity." Because while they're not saying anything on their platform, they're saying stuff through Instagram Live and stuff like that, responding back. And we all know uh, each one of them, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, have violent incidents in their past. Those who don't know, look up the Malice in the Palace and what Steven Jackson was a part of. Not to say that he was at fault or anything like that, but he will get down. And he made mention of when he responded to Kwame that if I come, you know how I'm coming. So I think Charlamagne is kind of trying to be protective of that and let them know, just leave him alone and let it go. But he went into the man history with his family, uh, and again, he shouldn't have even said it anyway, but I don't even think he knew the context of what he was saying. Kwame made sure to mention that, you know, he wasn't really raised by his father, and uh, the brother that he was talking about uh, in jail for murder, he said he never even met that brother before. And then he said, Charlemagne said something about he got another brother that's in jail serving time now. And Kwame said, while Charlemagne was saying that, that brother was, at work. But the main thing was he brought in personal stuff that had nothing to do with the situation. Uh, and again, this is a man who he was sleeping. He hadn't said anything in the last 20 years publicly regarding his time in the NBA, anything personal, anything like that. Um, and so they basically hit a nerve they shouldn't have hit, and they woke a sleeping giant. Now, I recently learned this new term, gaslighting, that y'all use, and what Charlemagne and Yee, I think, was just doing. I think I heard Yee doing. I'm not sure, but that's kind of one of the the main terms. Oh no, it was Matt Barnes when he was saying he don't really he don't really know why Kwame was mad. He asked his people, and they told him, "Oh, you hit Jack on the leg when uh something was said about the trade." No, bro. Number one, Matt Barnes made the first comment when Jeannie Buss said Kwame was in the trade. He made the first comment that it was a one-player trade. Then he hit Jack, or he hit the chair arm where Jack was, and that's when Jack chimed in with his little bit to basically explain that it was a one-person trade because Kwame wasn't good. Is what he was trying to say. But now Matt don't. He said he don't talk about him. But at the same time, you tell him he don't talk when you say everybody else talk about him, and then you don't know what you did and uh, all this type. That I think that's the definition of like gaslighting that y'all be talking about. That's the gaslighting thing. But I want to talk about today what I saw somebody put on social media that said somebody needs to get to Kwame Brown because basically he losing it because he keeps going on Instagram Live and addressing everybody that says something. Chris Broussard and his co-host on his podcast, they made a comment. Kwame addressed them. Stephen A. Smith made a comment about him being bust. Kwame addressed them. He addressed Charlemagne. He talked about Charlemagne shouldn't be divulging his family history and he shouldn't be the one to talk about any criminal activity uh, when he had a case of basically a female alleged allegedly accused him of putting something in her drink and sexually assaulting her. And I think most people who know about the Breakfast Club, most people who know about Charlemagne know that there was some rumors of a case uh, over the last couple of years where he settled with the female. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's the big rumor, allegedly. And so Kwame made a point that you should be the last one to discuss somebody's family history of criminal activity when you yourself have done this, but you always the one to talk about supporting the black woman. And uh, then he talked about Angela Lee. How could you uh, amen some of the stuff that he says and be with him on that network when uh, he's done this to a black woman allegedly, uh, and you still stand with him. Uh, Now, he got on Envy, and I think Envy was just kind of laughing. I don't think he really said nothing out of pocket, but the fact that he was giggling, Kwame didn't like that. And so he talked about how he felt like Envy was being emasculated or demasculated, whatever the goddamn word is. Because people know a couple years back, Envy got caught cheating with his wife, and he went on the air to discuss it. This is public knowledge. Went on the air to discuss and went on what Kwame said was a worldwide radio tour to apologize. And him and his wife have a podcast out, and I think that was one of the first episodes that they talked about. So he calls him less of a man. But the funny part about all these videos that Kwame putting out, you could tell my boy be you tell my boy be listening to music either when he putting them out or he just like one of them old cats who listen to music a lot, because he in the middle of his rant he'll just kind of throw up a R&B reference. I mean, in the middle of him talking about in the middle of him talking about Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher, he messing with Matt Barnes using the R. Kelly song. Then he called him Becky with the good hair, and all this stuff. So it makes it funny. But what also makes it funny is the fact that he really talking unfiltered. He really is. He just kind of saying it like saying he talking like you would talk to your homeboy, and the stuff that he's saying like it's true. Like, so I think that's what kind of make it a little bit more funny, or a little bit more shocking. Uh, but he talks about being Geechee, uh, and talking Geechee, and so we've all heard about people from the Low Country, Geechees, and Trick Daddy talk a lot about them. But y'all look up what Geechees are and the Gullah people and find. Uh, it's just interesting. So that's another discussion. But um, back to the comment. Somebody help Kwame because uh, they say he losing his mind or whatever. Bruh, I don't see that. This man sat back. Y'all put your mouth on his name, or they put their mouth on his name. And this is not like the man probably has been silently listening to stuff the whole time, including while he was in the league, or people, media and stuff, calling him a bust or saying he's not playing up the potential, this and that. And he felt away, but nobody really came to him and said, gave him an opportunity to tell his story, from what I gather. Uh, and so, he feel like y'all talking about me, y'all feel some type of way about me, but you ain't trying to get my story. You ain't trying to get the explanation for what's going on. So how can you possibly get an accurate depiction of my story if you're not even trying to get it from me? So you just want to use your narrative. So now these gentlemen who are former players, members of the fraternity, they use him as an opportunity for some comic relief. And because he answered it, now he got the problem. I don't get that. But it speaks to a bigger problem that I see with a lot of people. A lot of people think they can say stuff about you, keep saying stuff over and over, disparage your name, say untruthful things, and I ain't even talking about Kwame. I'm talking about y'all. I'm talking about regular folk. How we speak on stuff that we have no context about. We speak on stuff that's not our business, and we tell it like we in the moment, like we a part of the experience. And we expect that those individuals that we are talking about are going to do what we call take the high road. I don't understand that. Why is it that you think you can keep disparaging somebody's name? And again, I'm not even really talking about this situation no more. I'm talking about people in general. I'm just using this as a segue. Why do we think we can do that and it's okay? Not only is it okay, but there's not going to be a response. Because some of us know that the people that we're talking about have a higher moral compass and generally don't want to roll around in the mud. So we keep poking the bell, or you keep poking the bell, and you keep thinking nothing's going to be said, nothing's going to be done. And the people that you telling this story to, they figure, well, this all I'm hearing, so must be true. Even some of the people who claim that they know you, that claim they know your character, even some of the people who hear this stuff and know that you are absolutely not telling the truth, they know that what they're hearing is false, but they keep listening to it. And they know both individuals involved in the situation, and they don't take a moment to say, yo, you need to stop that. Or, well, if you got, you got that type of issue with them, why don't you go to them? If y'all supposed to be tight, why don't you go to them? No, you feed into it. And when the other person wants to have a reaction, then you say, oh, take the high road. Don't get involved. Just take the high road. Well, some goddamn time my feet is too goddamn swollen and I can't get up the goddamn high road. Sometimes I don't have no horsepower in my car. I can't get up the goddamn high road. So I got to go the low road. Please understand that when you tell me to take the high road, that does not equate to what that means is don't really fuck them up how you could. That's what I hear. You want me to hear, but what I hear is don't do them how you could, but please let them know if this continues, I'm asking you to stop formulating stories about me that have nothing to do with me because you envy me. But if it continues, I am prepared to go to another level. The high road only gives you the benefit of a warning that if you know me, like you say, you know me, you already know not to play with me like that anyway, right? You know that. And to the listeners, you know not to play with me like that, right? So the mere fact that you doing it, you want that smoke, right? That's what you're telling me. But then when I go to fuck off, this what happened to Kwame. When I go off, and I lose all type of restraint in my conversation, no threat. But when I start telling you about your personal stuff, when I start bringing up why you are the way you are, why you stuck like you are, why you always been stuck, why half of the people you talking to stuck and y'all like being stuck together, and because you stuck together, y'all keep pushing each other down even further because neither one of you wants to be the one to sacrifice to give a hand. So you keep pushing each other down further while you both looking up envying, or you all looking up envying. And because you so low, when you look up high, you see me, that's all you had to talk about, right? And so then it's my fault. But no, so Kwame said, yeah, bro, y'all talk all this noise, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about, why can't that be a discussion? You just discussed this man's personal business that had nothing to do with basketball. So since we're talking about personal business, let's talk about this. We could talk about the basketball aspect. We got some people coming who never played in the NBA. Then we got two people who are the antagonists, I guess we call them, Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, who played the same amount of years as Kwame. One of which, Matt Barnes, made half of what Kwame made during the course of the career, the same amount of time in the league. Kwame made 65 million, somewhere along that range. And Matt made somewhere 35 million, somewhere along that range. Almost half, right? Okay. So Steven Jackson played same amount of time in the league, 65, 68, right around the same thing. So then one has to say, if I'm a bust and I played 12 years, 68 million, and you are, if you call yourself a superstar, and you played 12 years, 68 million, who finessed the system? Me or you? I'm just trying to figure it out. And you don't want this man to respond. What should have been the appropriate response for Kwame? For those of you who feel like, okay, he losing his mind because he doing it live all day. Shit, you make 6 to 8 million. It ain't been too long. He been out the league, probably 6, 7 years, I guess, maybe something like that. You probably got a lot of time to do some shit. You probably got a lot of time during the day to do some stuff. Like he said, he don't have no parking, he don't have all that. And the thing about it that I identified with, he said when he made his first video or the first couple of videos going off, people was hitting his line. Said a couple of people hit his line basically saying, hey, I can get you on this platform to tell your story, this and that, or you don't want to do it like that, and this and that. Plus, he said that he hit Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson personally on the phone to try to discuss it, try to get on the podcast and discuss the situation. They refused. Now, when all this came out, Matt Barnes, he said he invited him on the podcast now and offered him an opportunity to box. But they say Kwame chose violence, which I don't know if Kwame is up on the colloquialisms that are used now, but when and I'm new to it too, but I'm assuming from some of the stuff I've seen, I'm assuming when somebody says you choose violence, it means like you really had no filter, you just went off. And I'm sure it comes from something, but I think Kwame took that as because I think he said Jamel Hill texted him and said he chose violence. I think he took that as them saying that he would choose violence, especially when that was sandwiched with the comment Charlamagne made about his family. So him taking all that in, he felt like they were saying that he would use violence and try to paint him as the angry black man, this type of thing. He's trying to let them know, I ain't mad, y'all mad. I ain't mad, I'm just telling you some real stuff now. And I'm trying to figure out myself, why do people think they can say any and everything, put their mouth on you, and you're not gonna say nothing back at minimum? And that's at minimum, because you could get the thunder cookies. So at minimum, we'll say something back to you. And as Kwame said, he basically said, F them folk who's texting him after the fact, because they didn't text him when no comments was being made. And it's the same way in regular life. The folk who want to speak that peace stuff, and you the main people taking in the trash that the other people are saying, but now you want to speak that peace stuff. No. The same way you trying to tell me to take the high road and be peaceful, that's the same tongue you should have used to tell them, stop them goddamn lies. Go get some help for yourself. Stop speaking in pain. Stop letting your pain speak for you, because your life is a mess. Don't envy me, because I ain't never gave you a reason to envy me. And never try to do nothing but help you. Never try to do nothing but help those people around you. But everything you say about me has a negative spin. And it makes it far worse when the same people who telling you to take the high road, you realize these side conversations, it may not just been one person talking greasy and putting their mouth on your name. It too, Brutus? Make you look at things a whole lot different. Because in the background, I'm promoting positivity with everybody. I'm on everybody to win. I'm sacrificing for everybody. I'm using my connections for everybody. I'm speaking up for you, and you holding down the person oppressing you, who talking about me. Come on, bro. At a certain point in time, ain't nobody dealing with that shit. It's so easy. It's so easy. Because you get to a point in your life where mentally you can't let people get free rent in your head. So what you have to learn how to do is say, oh well. And you have to mentally and emotionally separate from people, which means I can no longer give a damn about what's going on over there. Do I feel some type of way? Nope. I ain't mad, because at the end of the day, you don't affect nothing over here. So I can't be mad. Why be mad? Why be mad? So as miserable as you are, like things attract. So, somebody who don't really have nothing going on, it's hard for them to have a relationship or to communicate with people who got something going on, because people who got something going on don't have that type of time. If they doing something. People who don't have nothing going on tend to gravitate toward other people who don't have nothing going on, because y'all got time. Y'all got time to do that. Especially when the other people that don't have nothing going on serve a purpose. You serve a purpose, bro, and you don't even realize it. But Kwame been funny to me. He's been real funny. I personally don't feel like he's going through nothing emotionally other than he probably tired. He probably tired of situation. The issue of being a bust or not. I think that's a sports conversation. Uh, in a general sense, athletes probably don't feel too good about non-media athletes anyway. Uh, the non-media athletes using what they profess to be expert opinion, or people take their opinions as expert opinions, simply because I have a connection with somebody in the locker room, and this is what they said. I have a connection with this elite player, and this is what they said. It's essentially gossip group chat type shit, but that's always been the case. Athletes don't like when people who haven't done or what they perceive can't do what they do comment on what they do. So it's not respected. They respect the opinion of people who've been there before, and when that opinion isn't favorable, um, and they know that the people who've been there before have context, and they're not explaining the entire context, then they tend to think that uh, they're being fake. Um, you know, I can be a man or a female in a domestic violence situation, and uh, it got to a point to where the violence uh, got so bad. I was put in a position where I had to defend myself, and I defended myself and stabbed my mate or whatever. Well, it could be easily said, yeah, he stabbed his mate, or she stabbed her mate. But did they tell you why? Did they tell you the situation behind it? If not, then you could just go off thinking, oh, he crazy. He don't need to be with no woman. Or she crazy. She don't need to be with no man. She choose violence. But what precipitated that violence? So context is always king. Gotta have context. I always talk about context in the when people talk about race relations and things of that nature. Uh, you got to understand context and where people are coming from. When you understand where people are coming from, you can gain an understanding for their viewpoint. When you're not interested in how their viewpoint was derived, then you make blanket statements and hasty generalizations. It's not good. But to end it, uh, I don't think Kwame was crazy. I do think uh, a nerve was hit, and I think he responded. And I think he had been holding some things in for the last couple of years, and he responded uh, personally. He responded in a way that he wanted to embarrass them and make them feel how they tried to make him feel. They basically said he was nothing. That's what you do when you say somebody that was a part of something, a part of a trade or something like that was nothing, you basically reducing them to nothing. So, he basically now saying, well, if I'm nothing, this is about you. What are you? I think that's normal everyday stuff. I don't think that's indicative of mental health. Now y'all get to the point where y'all want to explain everything on mental health. Now, motherfuckers ain't crazy. They can get crazy. If you want me to, I can act crazy. But no, he ain't crazy. Just responding. And you can't tell me how to respond to what you did. So, I guess I'm gonna end it here. Another segment, taking court with Coach O. Kwame Brown, we're gonna keep up with it. I'm sure it might get more a little bit more interesting. 20 Pillar Lane podcast. Follow us. Got any questions you want to respond to this part? Put some in the comments. You can email me 20pillarlane@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, share. Also, if you got anything else you want me to talk about, put it in the email, 20pillarlane@gmail.com. Instagram @Coach JJ Oliver. Twitter @Coach JJ Oliver. JJ Oliver on Facebook. And we out. Peace.